You won't believe what these HOA cops did to me. Welcome to HOA Madness. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories like this. Let's dive in. A quiet morning shattered by HOA overreach ***. Police Chief Mark Dawson had just returned to his quiet suburban neighborhood after a grueling overnight shift, the weight of his badge and the city's chaos still clinging to him. His two-story brick home, nestled on Maplewood Drive, was his sanctuary, a place where he could shed his uniform and decompress with his wife, Lisa, and their teenage daughter, Emily. The neighborhood, governed by the Maplewood Heights HOA, prided itself on manicured lawns and strict adherence to rules, but Mark had always dismissed the HOA's petty enforcement as background noise. That changed one crisp Tuesday morning when he found a bright orange violation notice taped to his front door. The citation listed a $79 fine for unauthorized driveway obstruction due to his garbage bins being placed 3 inches too close to the curb the prior week. Mark scoffed, crumpling the paper. He'd forgotten to roll the bins back after trash day, a mistake he'd corrected within hours. He tossed the notice aside, assuming it was a bureaucratic error, but later that afternoon, as he washed his patrol SUV in the driveway, a white HOA enforcement truck screeched to a halt, blocking his exit. 2 men in matching polo shirts emerged, arms crossed, demanding immediate payment. Mark's patience frayed as he explained the bins had been moved, but the enforcers, led by a smug, clipboard-wielding man named Greg, insisted the fine was non-negotiable. "Pay up, or we'll tack on late fees," Greg sneered, ignoring Mark's calm reasoning. The chief's jaw tightened. This wasn't about bins anymore, it was a power play. He refused, citing the absurdity of the penalty, but Greg smirked and nodded to his partner, who began photographing Mark's SUV as evidence. Lisa watched from the window, uneasy, while Emily texted friends about the confrontation. Mark's phone buzzed with a call from dispatch. A downtown crisis needed his attention, but the HOA truck now barred his driveway. "Move the vehicle," Mark ordered, flashing his badge, but Greg laughed. "HOA rules trump city cops here," he jeered, leaning against the truck. The chief's temper flared, his authority challenged in his own home. He'd handled drug busts and hostage negotiations, but this was personal. The tension in the driveway crackled like live wires as Greg's defiance hung in the air. Mark's badge glinted in the sunlight, but the HOA enforcer's smirk didn't waver. "You think that shiny thing matters here?" Greg taunted, tapping his clipboard. "Maplewood Heights rules don't care if you're the mayor. Pay the fine or we'll lean your house." Mark's fists clenched, his training battling his fury. Dispatch had called about a gang-related shooting downtown. Lives were on the line, but Greg's truck idled stubbornly, exhaust fumes mingling with the chief's rising anger. Behind him, Lisa cracked the front door open, her voice trembling. "Mark, just pay it. We don't need this drama." But the chief shook his head. This wasn't about $79, it was about unchecked power. He pulled out his phone, dialing his precinct. "Sergeant Ruiz, I need a unit at my address now." "HOA obstruction." Greg snorted. "Calling your buddies?" "Cute. We're not breaking any laws." Mark's gaze hardened. "Impeding a police officer during an emergency is a felony." "Move the truck." Greg's partner, a younger man named Derek, shifted uneasily. "Greg, maybe we should," but Greg cut him off. "Shut it. They're bluffing." Moments later, sirens wailed in the distance. 2 squad cars skidded to a stop, officers Ruiz and Carter jumping out, hands hovering near their holsters. The mood shifted instantly. Greg's bravado faltered as Carter, a 6'3" veteran cop, loomed over him. "You're blocking a city vehicle during an active crisis," Carter growled. "Step aside, or you'll be cuffed." Derek bolted to the truck, but Greg stood his ground, face reddening. "This is private property. The HOA has jurisdiction." Ruiz stepped forward, her voice ice cold. "Public roads are city jurisdiction. That truck's on the street. Move it or we'll impound it." Reluctantly, Greg spat a curse and yanked open the driver's door, peeling out with a screech. Mark sprinted to his SUV, shouting to Ruiz, "Handle the paperwork. I've got a shooting to manage." As he sped off, Lisa slumped against the doorframe, shaken. Emily filmed the entire showdown on her phone, her TikTok caption already drafting itself. HOA versus police chief. Who will win? By nightfall, the video had gone viral, tagging hashtag HOA Gone Wild and hashtag Badge versus Bylaws. Meanwhile, Greg stormed into the HOA office, slamming the citation ledger onto the desk of HOA President Martha Whitlock, a steely retiree with a reputation for crushing dissent. "We can't let this slide," Greg seethed. Martha steepled her fingers, her smile thin. "Oh, we won't. If Chief Dawson wants a war, we'll bury him in violations. Every blade of grass out of place. Every fence post unapproved. We'll make him regret challenging us." The following weeks transformed Mark's once peaceful home into a battleground of bureaucratic absurdity. The HOA's vendetta unfolded like clockwork. Citations arrived daily, each more ludicrous than the last. A non-compliant mailbox flag, allegedly half an inch too high, excessive foliage, a single dandelion in the lawn, and even a violation for unauthorized ambience due to wind chimes Lisa had hung years earlier, all punishable by fines that ballooned into the thousands. Martha Whitlock's strategy was clear: drown the chief in petty grievances, knowing his demanding job left little time to fight back. But Mark wasn't just any homeowner. After narrowly averting the downtown crisis, a gang truce he'd brokered with bruised knuckles and sheer will, he turned his tactical mind to the HOA. Late nights at the precinct were now spent poring over Maplewood Heights bylaws, cross-referencing violations with municipal codes, and digging into the HOA's financial records. What he found was a pattern. Over 80% of fines targeted retirees, single parents, and newcomers, residents least likely to contest them. Worse, the HOA's emergency road repairs fund showed six-figure discrepancies, with invoices paid to a shell company named Greenleaf Contractors. A few keystrokes revealed Greenleaf was owned by Martha's nephew. Mark's blood boiled. This wasn't just harassment, it was embezzlement. He called in favors from the Financial Crimes Unit, quietly launching an audit. Meanwhile, the HOA's campaign grew vicious. A cease and desist letter arrived, threatening to foreclose on the Dawson home if fines went unpaid. Lisa, now ostracized by neighbors, fed HOA propaganda about the rogue police family, broke down after the book club uninvited her. Emily's TikTok fame backfired when classmates mocked her as HOA Barbie and someone keyed "pay up" into her car door. Mark's resolve hardened. He installed motion-activated cameras, catching HOA enforcers snooping through his trash and measuring his grass with rulers at dawn. One video showed Greg pouring bleach on a rose bush, framing it as chemical misuse. Mark forwarded the footage to his lawyer, but Martha retaliated swiftly. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, voting to revoke the Dawson's pool and gym access, citing behavioral noncompliance. The chief's breaking point came when a city council member, tipped off by Martha, publicly questioned his ethics for abusing police resources in a personal feud. Media vans camped outside his home, and the mayor demanded a meeting. "You're a hero, Mark, but this HOA drama's a distraction," the mayor warned, sipping bourbon in his oak-paneled office. "Let the courts handle it." But Mark had already set traps of his own. He'd discreetly interviewed dozens of residents, compiling a dossier of testimonies: an elderly widow forced to sell her cat to pay fines, a disabled vet fined for a ramp the HOA later approved, even Derek, Greg's ex-partner, who confessed under oath that Martha ordered targeted harassment. "She called it revenue optimization," Derek muttered, shamefaced. Greg's the attack dog, but Martha's the mastermind. Armed with evidence, Mark hand-delivered a file to the district attorney titled HOA Fraud and Extortion RICO Case. That evening, as he grilled burgers for a tense family dinner, his phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. "Chief Dawson," a voice hissed. "Drop the investigation, or we'll leak those photos of your daughter at the pool." You think she looks good in a bikini? The internet will. Mark's grip on the spatula turned white-knuckled. The war had just gone nuclear. The district attorney's office moved swiftly after receiving Mark's dossier. ADA Sofia Rivera, a razor-sharp prosecutor with a reputation for dismantling white-collar crime, convened a grand jury within days. Subpoenas rained down on the Maplewood Heights HOA, demanding financial records, meeting minutes, and communications between Martha Whitlock and Greenleaf contractors. Martha, however, was prepared. She'd spent years insulating herself, funneling funds through offshore accounts and shredding incriminating documents. But Mark's footage of Greg tampering with property and Derek's sworn testimony gave Rivera enough to secure search warrants. At dawn, a SWAT team and forensic accountants descended on the HOA office, seizing hard drives and file cabinets as Martha watched, stone-faced, from her Lexus. "This is harassment," she spat to reporters, though her trembling hands betrayed her. "We're a volunteer board protecting property values." Meanwhile, the blackmail threat against Emily escalated. The anonymous caller, a distorted voice using a burner app, demanded Mark withdraw his complaints or face consequences. Emily, now guarded by an unmarked patrol car during school hours, grew withdrawn, deleting her social media after explicit deepfake images of her surfaced online. Mark's tech unit traced the IP to a proxy server in Belarus, but a break came when Derek, fearing prison, confessed Greg had hired a local hacker to create the fakes. "Greg's got a cousin in cybercrime," Derek admitted, bargaining for immunity. "They're trying to scare you off." The HOA's retaliation backfired. Emily's TikTok followers, now numbering in the millions, launched a counter-campaign. Hashtags like #SaveMaplewood and #HOAExposed trended globally, with residents nationwide sharing horror stories. A GoFundMe for the Dawsons' legal fees hit $250,000 in hours, while a changed org petition to disband the HOA garnered 500,000 signatures. Local news crews ambushed Martha at her golf club, shouting questions about embezzlement. Even the mayor, sensing a political tidal wave, publicly endorsed Mark. Chief Dawson's courage is a reminder that no one is above the law. But Martha wasn't finished. At an emergency HOA meeting, she proposed a special assessment fee to fund the board's legal defense, threatening liens on anyone who refused. This sparked open rebellion. Retired teacher Mrs. Delaney, fined into poverty for a peeling fence, stood in the packed community hall and threw her keys at Martha. "I'm done paying for your vacations." The room erupted. Dozens of residents stormed out, vowing to sue. Greg, cornered by Rivera's investigators, flipped, handing over spreadsheets detailing Martha's kickbacks. "It was all her," he whimpered. "She said we were untouchable." Mark, juggling death threats and departmental scrutiny, faced his toughest choice yet. Rivera offered a plea deal, Martha's freedom in exchange for testimony against bigger targets, city officials who'd turned a blind eye. "We can gut the whole corrupt network," Rivera urged. But Mark refused. "She terrorized my family. She goes down for all of it." As the grand jury indicted Martha on 47 counts, racketeering, extortion, conspiracy, the community rallied. A potluck protest drew hundreds to Maplewood Drive, neighbors painting HOA equals mafia on banners and singing solidarity ballads. Lisa, once shunned, found herself embraced by a newfound sisterhood of survivors. Emily, though scarred, began counseling cyberbullying victims, her voice steady on podcasts. "They tried to break us. They failed." Yet victory hung by a thread. Martha's lawyer, a slick litigator with mob ties, filed motions to suppress evidence, claiming police overreach. Then, the night before trial, arsonists torched the Dawsons' garage. Firefighters salvaged Mark's case files, but the message was clear: the rot went deeper than Maplewood. As smoke curled into the dawn sky, Mark hugged his family, then dialed Rivera. "We're not backing down. Let's end this." The trial of State v. Whitlock et al. Became a media circus, with satellite trucks lining the courthouse steps and protesters chanting, "Jail the HOA." Inside the packed courtroom, Martha Whitlock sat stiffly in a tailored navy suit, her lawyer, Vincent Cole, oozing confidence as he dismissed evidence as circumstantial theatrics. Police Chief Mark Dawson, in full uniform, took the stand first, detailing the HOA's campaign of harassment and presenting time-stamped footage of Greg sabotaging his property. Cole's cross-examination was brutal. "Chief Dawson," he sneered, "isn't it true you've used your badge to intimidate HOA volunteers?" Mark's voice remained steady. "No. I enforce the law, something this board ignored." The prosecution's star witness, Greg, now gaunt and shackled, testified that Martha ordered him to make the Dawsons' lives hell. He described secret meetings where fines were weaponized and funds laundered. But Cole pounced, revealing Greg's sealed juvenile record for arson. "You're a liar and a felon," Cole thundered. "You'd say anything to avoid prison." The jury's skepticism grew. Then, ADA Rivera unveiled a surprise witness, Mayor Richard Ellis. Gasps filled the room as Ellis, pale and sweating, admitted accepting bribes from Martha to ignore resident complaints. "She donated to my campaign and my Bahamas vacation," he mumbled. Texts between Martha and Ellis confirmed it. "Keep Dawson quiet, and the next check's yours." The mayor's betrayal stunned the city. Protesters outside burned effigies of him, and headlines screamed, "Mayor sold out cop to HOA." But Martha's retaliation wasn't over. During a recess, Mark received a call from Lisa, hysterical. Emily had vanished. Security footage showed her being shoved into a van outside school. The kidnappers demanded Mark recant his testimony in exchange for her life. "Bring the files to the old warehouse on Pier 12. Alone. Or she dies at sunset." Mark's blood turned to ice. He raced to the precinct, where his team triangulated the van's route, but every second counted. Against Rivera's pleas, Mark stormed into the courtroom, interrupting testimony. "Your Honor, my daughter's been taken. I request a recess." Judge Ramirez denied it. "This trial cannot stall for personal matters, Chief Dawson." Mark's roar echoed off the walls. "My daughter isn't a matter." He bolted from the courthouse, ignoring Rivera's shouts, and sped toward the pier, clutching his service weapon. The warehouse loomed, rotting and silent. Inside, Emily sat bound to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. Two men in ski masks leveled guns at Mark. "Files. Now." Mark tossed a decoy folder. As they scrambled for it, he lunged, disarming one with a baton strike. Gunfire erupted, a bullet grazed his shoulder, but Mark tackled the second kidnapper, pinning him. "Who sent you?" The man spat. "You'll never prove it was Whitlock." Suddenly, SWAT breached the doors. Mark's precinct had traced his phone. Emily collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "I'm sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have walked alone, This isn't your fault," he whispered, trembling with rage. Back at the courthouse, Rivera moved to add kidnapping and attempted murder to Martha's charges, but Cole objected. "No proof links my client to this." Then, a breakthrough. The kidnappers' burner phones had called a number traced to Martha's landscaper, who flipped under interrogation. "She paid me $20,000 to hire thugs," he confessed. Rivera entered the evidence as Exhibit 112, and Martha's mask finally cracked. "Lies," she shrieked, lunging at Mark before bailiffs restrained her. The jury deliberated for 19 agonizing hours. Mark paced the precinct, bandaged and sleepless, until the verdicts came, guilty on all counts for Martha. Greg and the mayor received reduced sentences for cooperation. As Martha was led away in cuffs, she spat at Mark. "This isn't over." But the community's roar of triumph drowned her out. That night, Maplewood Drive erupted in a block party, music, fireworks, and HOA-free banners hanging from porches. Lisa and Emily danced under twinkling lights, their laughter a balm to Mark's wounds. Yet as he scanned the crowd, he noticed Derek lingering in the shadows, clutching a manila envelope. "Chief, there's something else," Derek muttered. Martha wasn't the top. She reported to someone, a benefactor they called the gardener. "This is all yours." Inside the envelope, bank records, offshore accounts, and photos of a shadowy figure meeting with Martha at a private airstrip. The last document was a property deed for a sprawling estate owned by Arthur Holloway, a billionaire real estate mogul and philanthropist, who just donated $1 million to the police pension fund. Mark's phone buzzed, an unknown number. "Congratulations, Chief," a smooth voice purred. "You've pruned the weed, but the root remains. Let's discuss boundaries." The line went dead. Arthur Holloway's name hit Mark like a sucker punch. The billionaire's face smiled from charity galas and skyscraper dedications, his philanthropy a velvet glove hiding a steel fist. The documents Derek provided were a roadmap to a labyrinth, shell companies in the Caymans, wire transfers to judges, and a ledger showing Holloway had bankrolled Martha's HOA reign for over a decade. Maplewood Heights was a petri dish, Derek explained, voice hushed in the precinct's evidence room. Holloway used HOAs nationwide to destabilize neighborhoods, buy up foreclosed homes cheap, then flip them for luxury developments. You just happened to live on his next target. Mark's mind reeled. The garage fire, Emily's kidnapping, all to clear the block for Holloway's Maplewood Estates, a gated enclave for the ultra-rich. The chief's resolve hardened into something primal. He assembled a trusted task force, ADA Rivera, forensic accountants, and a cyber unit to trace Holloway's digital shadow. But Holloway was no Martha Whitlock. When Mark raided the landscaper's safe house, he found the man dead, an overdose, staged too neatly. A text buzzed on the corpse's phone. "You're digging your grave, Chief." Lisa begged Mark to step back. "We almost lost Emily once," she pleaded, tears streaking her face. "What if next time?" Mark kissed her forehead. "There won't be a next time. I end this." Holloway's taunting call came at midnight. "Let's negotiate," he crooned. "You've cost me $20 million in delays. Walk away and I'll triple your pension. A villa in Costa Rica. Your daughter's college fund. Poof asterisk, fully funded." Mark's grip on the phone tightened. "Or what? You'll burn down my life." Holloway chuckled. "I'll salt the earth. Your wife's nursing license? Gone. Emily's little TikTok fame? I'll turn her into a meme for pedophiles. You'll spend your retirement watching your family unravel." Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't know who you're messing with." The next 72 hours blurred into a high-stakes chess game. Rivera secured a warrant for Holloway's financials, but every judge she approached suddenly had conflicts. Mark's cyber team found Holloway servers guarded by military-grade encryption. Meanwhile, Holloway's smear campaign went live. Fake news sites accused Mark of embezzling union funds, and bots flooded social media with #CorruptChief. Patrol officers began side-eyeing their boss, and the mayor, now facing his own indictment, screamed, "You've poisoned this department." But Mark had one card left: Lydia Holloway, Arthur's estranged daughter. A recovering addict turned whistleblower, she'd been hiding in fear since leaking the shell company info to Derek. Mark tracked her to a sober living home in Albuquerque. "He'll kill me," she trembled, clutching a coffee cup. "He killed my mother for her shares. Made it look like a sailing accident." Mark slid a burner phone across the table. "Help me bury him, and I'll give you a new life." Lydia's tears dripped onto a USB drive containing Holloway's black book, names, dates, bribes, and a video of Martha begging him to cleanse Maplewood. The final showdown unfolded at Holloway's cliffside mansion. Mark arrived with a SWAT team, warrant in hand, but the estate was eerily silent. Inside, Holloway waited in a silk robe, sipping 30-year scotch beside a roaring fireplace. "Chief Dawson, come to arrest me? Good luck, your warrant's already been voided." Mark didn't flinch. "Not here for you. Here for her." He nodded to Lydia, who emerged from the shadows, mic'd and wired, live-streaming everything to the DA's office. Holloway's smirk died as she recited bank codes, murder plots, and his scheme to gentrify half the state. "You're finished, Arthur," Mark said. "The world's watching." Holloway lunged for a desk drawer. A pistol flashed, but Mark tackled him, the gun skittering across marble. They grappled, Holloway hissing, "You're a dead man," until SWAT swarmed the room. Cuffed and disheveled, Holloway spat, "My lawyers will have me out by sunrise." Mark leaned in. Your Gardner flipped. "So did your pilots, your accountants, and the judge who voided my warrant. You're buried." The fallout was seismic. Headlines crowned Mark, the HOA slayer, while Maplewood Heights residents voted unanimously to dissolve the HOA. Holloway's empire crumbled, his assets were frozen, and his developments halted. Lydia, under witness protection, donated her inheritance to the families Martha had ruined. At home, Mark sat on his porch, Emily's laughter drifting from the backyard as she repainted her vandalized car with Lisa, vibrant sunflowers covering the scars. Derek stopped by, handing over a HOA-free plaque for their lawn. "For what it's worth, thanks," he mumbled. Mark nodded. "What'll you do now?" Derek shrugged, thinking of starting a handyman service. No rulers, no fines. That night, as fireflies blinked over Maplewood Drive, Mark scrolled through messages, congratulations, interview requests, a mayoral endorsement. He silenced his phone and joined his family, the weight of the badge finally lifting. But in his desk drawer, the burner phone buzzed once, an encrypted file from an unknown sender. He'd open it tomorrow. For tonight, he was just Mark, husband, father, man. The end. Asterisk, or is it? Asterisk.